Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Chris Andrew podcast. Thanks for joining me. Today, I'm going to be talking to Kojo Ansah, who is a musician, producer, and all-round lovely dude. Best known for his musical project Citizen K, but he's been operating out of Canberra as a producer for many years now, and is now situated in Lake City Studios, where he works with artists of all stripes to make incredible stuff. He's achieved so much already in music, but he's very young and has plenty more to come. So I'm curious to hear what his life is like at the intersection of making stuff, having already had success. What does he want? What are his processes? How does he work with others? And the experience of jumping back and forth between being a superstar on stage and trying to make other people's stuff shine. I mean, it's a moving feast, and who knows where it'll go, but glad to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Here we are, Kojo. So delighted to be able to talk to you again. I feel like it's been too long. And I've been reading heaps about you before we're chatting, like some sort of creepy perv. And I see that you're doing heaps of stuff in the studio now. And I want to start with that. What is the studio to you? Because I feel like if you don't make music or work in these worlds, you think that it's a space where people go in with a song, they record the song technically, and then they leave. But that's a millionth of what it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's that, obviously. Most of the time, it's just me sitting here by myself, twiddling knobs and pressing buttons. It's become more and more fun again. Like studio for me started as the way to connect back to actually making music. You know, after doing the artist thing for ages, studio was kind of like the escape from being an artist because I could make all the music and then not deal with all the social media and touring and, all that nonsense. And then it became a job for a while. And now we're back to it's just fun again. Everything matters, but also doesn't matter.
Did you feel that way also about your artist career?
For sure. Yeah. It started as you make something, you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever to come out, no one's ever made anything like this. And then you put it out and then it doesn't do what it's supposed to do in terms of numbers and you get the team involved and, all the bullshit gets part of it and it ruins it. And then you think that it's not that good anymore when actually it hasn't changed at all. The art and the craft is exactly the same. It's just your perception towards it changes. And so, yeah, the same thing, like artist stuff started as pure bliss and pure ignorance of anything outside of just making the music. Went into having the team, doing the things, touring, dealing with streaming, radio, all that. And the climax of it was the last big tour I did as Citizen K. And we had an album that went with it, Belly the Beast. And I put so much into that album and I just set all these expectations around it that were just pretty infeasible. But the product became so tainted because of all these other expectations I put around it. And it did well. It's just I was like, this is the one that's going to do it without really knowing what it is. What do I want it to do? And so after that, I was just I need a break from this. I need to step away. I'm just not inspired like I used to be. I'm making stuff for the sake of making stuff, not because I want to make it. It's mostly my only source of income is music. So it's as soon as your art and the way you pay your bills are directly connected, I feel like it taints the process a little bit. A lot, actually, personally, which I backtracked on. I used to think being full-time music is the thing every artist should aspire to. I'm being full-time in their art, but I don't necessarily believe that anymore.
That's super interesting. I feel like the lesson of detaching from the outcome of how something goes and just being, just enjoying the process and being able to be present in that is kind of like the universal lesson across whatever you do. But you must have had to learn that pretty hard and pretty quickly because you're quite young and very successful immediately off the bat. And then this is just my external observation, but I feel like, you were already making really good work as an artist. And then it's obvious that you work really hard and structured and have ideas for how you do things. And then, so therefore your work's only gotten better and better. It's, I mean, better, whatever better means. Like, it's from my metric, it's like become truer to you and
Yes.
more ambitious in its expression and richer in the tapestries of things that you're exploring. And that sort of culminates in your most recent album, So Where Are We, which is like such a funny intersection, because is it the only one that you independently release?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not the apex in the sense that you're still super young and have so much space to move forward into, but it's the apex in my mind of the work that you've made so far. And then it's also intersects with the time where you're like, I'm not being a slave on social media. I'm not making little TikToks to cut wide. I'm not doing a collaboration with Just Jeans or like, all the more sort of shit munching things that you kind of have to do to be as a financially successful artist. And it also comes at a time where not just the art of making things has changed, but also hip hop has also diffracted so massively. How do you see that? And do you think about, like, are you making stuff at the moment, and do you think about what your next thing might look like or how you would do it? Are you still circling that dance, or do you feel like you found the pocket you're comfortable in?
I feel really comfortable. So Where Are We was the perfect, tangible thing I could give to the world of where I'm at. Now, I've talked about it a little bit, but that record wasn't really meant to exist in the sense of 2017 made the call that I was going to step away from Citizen K. I just wasn't inspired in the same way that I used to be. And then that turned into just like, how can I find inspiration again? And I just started making stuff. I guess I have the privilege of being at the studio and working in the studio, and that being my other job is still making music.
But that's a privilege, but it's also a cost, because you go into the space that is your workspace that you spend all your time in, so you don't get that sort of magical state shift that
Yeah, I
can
mean,
help.
what for me, what was I think all that was really ruining it for me was the external, the social media stuff, the
Mhm.
I don't know, just like he's made this thing, everyone cares about it for everyone cares about it for 3 weeks, and they're already going like, "What's your next thing?"
Mm.
Like that is just not. I don't know if other artists feel this way. I think they do, but it's just not feasible as an artist. You put 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years into this project, and then you have 6 weeks to bask in it before you're expected to do the next thing. So for me, like the studio stuff turned into, well, I've got people coming through. I'm making stuff all the time, but I don't have to. Once we're done making the thing, I don't have to even think about it anymore.
Mm.
I just get to go on to the next thing. So, I mean, it was really freeing in that sense. And that just like more and more of that just built into this need to just explore and experiment. I mean, I'll quickly talk about like the So Where Are We thing in sense of it built up into a point where I was going out more, seeing all these acts, seeing all this jazz stuff, seeing all this rock stuff, all these genres and all these plays, and being like, man, I just kind of want to hang out with these people and see. I just want to hang out with these people in an environment where we just plug in and see what happens. And I'll give both our good friend Louis Montgomery a huge shout out here. My initial plan was to get in, jam with a bunch of people, see if anything comes out of it, and then go back in and record. And Lou was the one who said, let's do that, but let's plug everyone in and record the process as it's happening.
He
And I was
knows. He
like,
knows.
yeah, I was like, well, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if that's the way to go, but you know what? I'm open. I guess it doesn't hurt to do that. I also went in it going, we had, I think it was 10 days in the studio, or 10 to 12 days. And my only goal was to come out with two okay ideas. So I set the bar really, really low. And those two ideas I didn't have to do anything with. Like, I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. I didn't tell any of my team I was doing this. I just wanted no pressure, super low stakes. And, the experience was fucking phenomenal. Like, it felt like when I first started making music and you'd play a sound or make a sound or hear something, you'd lose your mind and you think it's the greatest thing ever. It was that, but now with, experience behind it. It was back
Yeah.
to like this childlike way of making stuff. But yeah, there's the experience of making stuff behind it as well. So you've got the skills there, but you're not limited by what it could be, or what you think it should be. Or even like, I've talked about it before. I wasn't planning on releasing anything either. At that point in my mind, Citizen K was done. I was like, I think that's it. I think I've given all I can to this project. And now the way that I give to the world through music is as a producer and as an engineer. So I think all that pressure being taken away just allowed so much space. Yeah, just to be and just to sit in. Like, the record has 12 tracks or whatever it is. We made over 40 ideas and most of them fucking suck. Like, most of them are so trash, but in the best way. Like, they were just fun and they were totally meaningless. But through that, this incredible concept came out of it and just like revealed itself as we we're making the music. It just reminded me like, we take this stuff so seriously, like unnecessarily seriously.
Mm.
And it's really kind of simple when you are able to just break it down and just be a kid again.
Yeah, there's so many gravities that come in, when you're engaging your frontal lobe to make something where you think something should be a particular way or you have an expectation or whatever. And even there where you say you made 40 tracks and most of it was trash, like, you're not getting that condensed core of the meaning that you like without having, explored in all the other directions as well. It's the same thing, which is just it's so nice to hear. I mean, I've had the privilege of working with you a couple of times. What I love about that type of work where you get into a space and you're like, this is a creative open thing and, you don't know where it's going to go, is that everybody's like a snowflake or a fingerprint in the sense that like it's totally different. So what will be required to open up the space to be exploratory or generous or get excited about is totally different for everybody. And then when you get two people, it's that difference is totally different again. Like you and I working together would be totally different to someone who is very similar to me and someone who is very similar to you. To get like that, you would make totally different things. It's impossible to predict. So then, do you get to, like, it sounds like when you did this most recent album, you kind of produced yourself in the sense that you created the environment and the conditions that you knew you wanted to have to sort of soar. Do you enjoy that element of working with other people in the studio for you as you produce
Yeah,
them?
I mean that's what I was doing leading up to the record with as a producer with other people, and realizing like how little control is actually in our hands. Like in that same
Yeah.
way, put two people together and you could do, you don't know what's going to happen. Put those same two people together the next day or on a different day, and
Yeah.
something totally different could happen again.
Yeah.
So out of our hands. And I think once that really dawned on me, like all the pressure completely dissipated. Like, I was like, we just have to rock up. Like we literally just have to show up and see what happens that day. And that day we could make something great. The next day we can make something great. The next day we can make something terrible, but it's still great. Like, all we literally have to do is just show up and set the conditions. And so as soon
That's
as
really good advice for people who are a bit afraid to get into those spaces or people who don't think that they have good stuff in them or whatever.
yeah, but I mean, a lot of it comes to insecurity as well. Like I remember in those sessions, even though I'd been working that way, I still found old habits creeping in of like, because it's the first time I'd ever really let anyone into my processes since K. It's the first time anyone had been
Wow.
around while I'd been making stuff from scratch. So for the first few days, I was nervous to look stupid in front of people and to not look like I was coming up with great ideas off the bat, which we all know that's not how it works.
Mm.
But like, it just took a while to just remember everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's concerned about themselves and not looking bad as well. Like everyone's so in their own head. And so, yeah, I think once you remember that, everything just becomes relaxed again. Yeah. And you just realize it's just not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to care about it as much as you by like a significant margin, right?
Yeah. And even me, I'm like, once again, because there was no actual, we weren't making it to go towards anything. Like I didn't go in saying I'm making an album.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
just went in saying we're going to play and just see what happens with that. Something could happen from it, something could not happen from it. So by going in with no actual goals, apart from I hope I come out with two okay ideas, was like one of the best things I could have ever done. And once again, that's what I've been doing the year or two leading up as a producer was when I get in with someone, it was just like, hey, we're just rocked up now. Let's see what happens today. Like if you don't make anything, all good. Don't worry about it. Yeah, easier said than done when you're not the artist, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone's different. I mean, you must have so many people walking into the studio with the idea of like that are at that stage as well that you talked about, where like I've made the best thing in the world. This is so important. This is going to be everything for me. Or this is going to go. This is going to make a particular thing. And they're walking in that with that energy, and expecting and paying you to like to finish the step of making that true. When, as you exactly say, that is so completely out of anyone's control.
Yeah, I think that's always the hard one, especially when there's money involved.
Mm.
People come in with this expectation, and all I can tell them is like the money's going through facilitating the environment. Like the rest of it is just out of our control. Like, I mean, it's part of why I charge the way I charge, and I just set it like a flat rate. I don't usually do anything by the hour because I just know like we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, I mean, and that's something we can talk about as well, like the financial side of it of how to get the balance between making a living, charging so it has that value to it, but also not getting to a point where either side is losing out. Like both sides should feel like they left with the value that they wanted to get out of it. Does it make sense?
Yeah. I mean, any business, any transaction, that's what you want, right? But
Yeah.
it's murkier with creative stuff because it's so subjective.
Oh, it's so subjective. And what you think, I mean, you know this as well. What you think is great, like, is so subjective. The amount of times we've done
Yeah.
stuff, and I've looked at being like, that is so fucking great. Like, I love this. And then 2 days later, I get an email being back, like, coming back being like, so I don't think that was it. Like, it's just not really what I wanted. I'm just like, damn, I thought we nailed it. You know?
I'm
And then there's other
I've
times
actually
where,
been I've
yeah,
been doing some producer stuff lately myself at a very different level to make demos for songwriting and for others. I keep thinking back to the phenomenon. Do you have this? I mean, maybe you don't want to give the game away, but I hear about a lot of people in their studios that have like a bullshit knob, which is like if somebody's sitting there and they're like, "Oh, can I just hear more vocals, or can I get more reverb, or can I get more whatever?" And then you just turn it and you're like, "How about that?" And it actually doesn't do anything. And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's much
yeah,
better. That's
that's
great."
fine.
I keep thinking of I keep thinking of doing that with the sending things back and forth, just like, okay, this will be called version 6, but it's actually just version 5. But let's see if you like it because I think it's really good.
I've done that by accident before, and that's when it hit me.
To yourself?
To myself and to other people. Like,
Yeah.
to myself all the time. When I'm mixing and producing, I'll be, twiddling knobs and doing things, and I've got it in bypass the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I've just spent 20 minutes being like, oh, that sounds so much better, and I haven't.
Yeah.
It's been in bypass. And then the same, there was one thing I'm thinking about. I exported the update, like I did all these things that they asked, and then I accidentally just named it wrong when I exported it and sent the same version. And the response was like, perfect, don't change anything. And it was days later, I was going back
That's
through
so good.
doing the pre-master, and I realized, like, I sent this guy the wrong version.
And
But
they
he
loved it.
signed up on it, and it's
Yeah. It's amazing how much your perception is what shapes stuff.
so much.
Or the
So
relationship at
again,
least.
like, when you become really aware of that, that's also what takes all the pressure off as well, though. Because you're
Mhm.
like, yeah, it takes all the pressure off. It's all perception.
Yeah, I love that because I used to think that it was a sort of a magical art that involved, a rigorous mountain of skill that was not attainable to me to climb at all. And so it was I thought that it was impossible for me to make my own music and for it to be good. I thought it would it could only exist if you paid somebody else to do it. When of course there's any number of examples of people just making stuff with extraordinarily low quality gear, low fidelity, low like care or low input, and the stuff being totally beloved because it's of course as a listener you're going by your feeling, you're not going by, I mean, you can switch on that part of the brain and be like, these hats are peaking, this song sucks, but like it's very unlikely that people were doing that when they were listening to the Rolling Stones or whatever. It was not the point of what they were doing.
I think then that's like, I don't know. There's so much just like bullshit involved as well, in the sense of people come in and they go like, I don't know, like you said before, like they come in with these expectations that you're going to do something. And I've noticed, especially now having the studio and having the gear and all the things, it's like,
Yeah.
man, I could do this exact same thing on my laptop in bed. Like,
Right.
the gear is just extra crayons, extra toys, but really, like, you can do anything with anything. Like, you can do so much with so little. And it shows, like, when I was starting to see the Citizen K stuff, I was working off this, like, shitty old computer, like, with the shittiest mic. I had, like, this $200 SE electronic mic. Like, all my first records was done through that. The mixes were, like, I had no fucking clue what I was doing, but they just worked and no one cared.
Yeah, no one's going back listening to that being like, oof, what a crude era for recording or whatever. Like, yeah, no, it sounds
Seriously.
great. It
Yeah.
really sounds great. That's so interesting to hear. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, man. I still got no clue what I'm doing, but even less so.
But that's the other thing. I feel like where I said about this insurmountable mountain, like that's also true in that there's like nobody's ever done learning about sound production because there's I mean, even if you froze everything in the gear and equipment now and never produce anything else, like other tools for people to use, there's too many rules and ideas and opportunities for things to make. Like nobody can know everything about it. You just got to carve out your little palette of what you like and keep growing that if you want to. And then, not get stuck at the whiteboard, I guess, which is like to not get stuck with the idea that like, I don't have the right reverb plugin or I don't have the whatever, so I can't really make something that sounds good, which is, again, nonsense. I actually, as a hip hop artist, especially, it's really fun listening to the early days stuff. And then who was it? I was working with a guy in Oakland who put me on to all this early G-Funk stuff, and I was listening to it, and we were trying to make some stuff together, and I realized that like everything I was making with him was too complex even though I had basically nothing, like, because all the stuff that was the reference material was basically just made on, like, if you think it's sort of the shittiest keyboard that you, like an entry level keyboard that you could buy at JB Hi-Fi with like the drum things, and then but make it the '90s version of that. That was like the sound palette for like all of this stuff that like people
Yep.
were listening to I'd still listen to. It's yeah, and then of course if you go further back, like I mean, what are you watch videos of like the bands recording in the 60s or something, and they'll like wheel someone in. They're all standing around one mic and they'll wheel somebody in so that they can do their solo and then wheel them out quietly.
It's
Like,
so good.
yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
what the technology's made us overthink so much.
yeah,
Like
right.
it's so much overthinking, and like all it comes out, if the song is good, the song will be good. Like you could record it on a fucking potato, but like if you can somehow get that potato to play back, the song's gonna be good. You know, I think
Love
like,
this potato jam.
dude, the potato jams, like I remember that all the time, and that's also why like with the So Where Are We record, I think almost all my vocals except for maybe 2 tracks were the demo vocals. So
Right.
they were all yeah. Well, I figured it out while doing the production over the last few years. Was so often that initial demo vocal just has a spirit to it that we end up always trying to chase. And so this time around, I was like, all right, while I'm writing, I'm actually just going to set up the good mic in front of me. I'm still sitting down, I'm still writing, still figuring it out. And I'll come back to it later, but I'm going to record it in a way that's going to be usable. And yeah, 80, 85, 90% of what I did as the demo is just what ended up on the record. And a bunch of it I tried to redo and just couldn't get it right. And I was okay with that. Like there was so many mistakes. There's one particular song where I'm singing way out of key in some of the harmonies, but it just worked in the context of it somehow. Yeah, and it was just like I was totally okay with it. I was so fine with it because it was conveying the emotion I wanted to convey, and that was all that I cared about.
Do you know that Adele story on exactly the same thing?
No.
When she, in the making of her first album with all those hits, the Rolling in the Deep, etc., etc. I'm not sure if that's her first album. The one that was firstly huge, I think it was Rick Rubin, and she brought the songs, and he was like, okay, great, and we'll get into these vocals. She's like, no, I'm keeping these are the vocals I want to do. It's like, okay, but you've just listened to them a lot, and you're probably attached to them, and we'll get a better version of all of them. And she's like, no, and they did, and like she wouldn't budge on it, and those are the final ones in the album. Actually, the emotionality of that resonates because it's so much more important than the specifics of the pitch or the quality or whatever. There's an authenticity that you can't make up. Like it doesn't mean you can't recapture it, but you certainly can't. Like actors playing a scene are going to be less compelling than watching something happen in real life. Or if it's the same thing. Yeah. Oh, I
And there
love
are
that.
very few people that can just turn that on and fully get you in the motion every single time in the same way. It's not even going to be in the same way. It's always going to be slightly different, obviously. But I think, yeah, just realizing that once again, coming back to just the show up and see what happens thing, thank the heavens once again for Mr. Louis Montgomery for having that foresight. It's just like, let's just capture it. Because even a bunch of the instrumental stuff, me in producer engineer mode, went to re-record a bunch of it. There was a keys part that it was fine in the demo, but in my mind, you've got to retrack. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
part of the
yeah.
process. You've got to retrack. And we went in, we we're retracking the parts. There was a bunch of us in the room, and we're like, he's playing the exact same part, the exact same notes, in seemingly the exact same way. But something about it doesn't feel right. And because we were getting like a better quality, we all felt we convinced ourselves that it was better. And then a friend came in, Andy, who, she was the creative director for all the visual stuff. And, she'd heard all the original demos, came in halfway through the day and sat in. And she was listening back to that part we just did. She leans in and goes, is it just me or does it not feel as good? And as
Right.
someone who doesn't make music, just walked in and was instantly able to say that, like, I was like, okay, cool, we're done. Don't worry about it. We're using the original. Like, if you can come in and have that off the bat and that be your initial instinct, and all of us have been feeling it because we're musicians and professionals, we convinced ourselves that this new version was the better version. When, like, I still don't know what it was. I go back and forth between them all the time, and they're literally he's playing the exact same thing. But there's just something about the energy of the original jam. I think because we're all in a room together, there's something that happens how the air moves in the room, or something's happening when everyone's in the space together and it's being played. That just wasn't the same when we isolated him Yeah, it was just super fascinating.
I love it. There's so many unspoken magics that occur in those spaces. I don't really know how to. I mean, yeah, if you could articulate them, then you'd be destroying them. So, but yeah, it's such a fun thing to get to do. A fun thing for me to do is to watch you perform, and so it's really interesting to me to hear that you, uh, like you've sort of drawn a line under the project of that, because firstly, because you're a phenomenal performer. Like not many people you watch they really stand out. Like you see so many artists, they're really good players, or they've got really good songs, or even the combo. But few people feel like you watch them and you're like, this person is at the center of being alive and what they're really great at. That's what it feels like to watch you. And it is. I watch a lot of stuff, and it is an extremely rare thing and special. So it's then that it's because you don't enjoy it, or like it's because it's not something that you're going to come back to or find again in a particular way. Is it that you're done performing because of all the nonsense that comes with having to professionalize it, and which is 98% of the actual time of doing it, if not more, in terms of energy? Or is it because you're like, I feel like I've done that, and I want to explore other stuff?
No, no, it's 100% the first. And also, I'm someone who
That's a
enjoys.
failure of society. Then that's a failure of society
Yeah, I mean,
to take you off that
also
stage.
also technology in the sense that I've always said if I could teleport from my bed to the stage, do the show, and teleport right back, I would be performing all the time. It's just it takes up so much energy, and I'm really conscious of how I spend my energy. And not that it's a waste; it's not a waste of energy by any stretch. But it just everything else around it leading up to performance takes up so much energy. The travel time, the waiting around, the fucking organizing, like are people going to buy tickets? Is anyone going to, all that stuff just take up so much space. And once again, if I could just teleport there minute before I play, perform, and then teleport back and not have to worry about any of the other stuff, I'd be doing it all the time. I'm just like I'm not built for that. And my brother, like for those who don't know, Genesis Owusu, like one of the best performers I think on the planet. He's just built differently. He loves that grind. Like everything is the show for him, or everything around it comes to the show. And so I guess some people are just built for it. Some people, like I think I'm just built for it, hanging out in the studio and being patient and having the same kick loop for 3 hours straight. Like I'm built for that, and I feel comfortable doing that. The performing, there's a switch that flicks when I hit Citizen K. Like I've noticed in the last few years, I always talk about Citizen K in the third person, and I never
Interesting.
say. Yeah, I noticed it a few years ago that I always say Citizen K, and I've realized because it feels like a part of me, but it's not. It's not me. It's like it's like an actor getting in character. It's still authentic, and I'm still bringing out a real part of me. But if I was that version of me all the time, I would be exhausted. And so it's this weird. As soon as I'm like in Citizen K mode, it's like let's let's resurface all the joy, all the emotion, how you felt when you wrote this song. Let's convey that in that moment and give everything to it, and then let go again. And I find that like especially especially when I first started performing, the anxiety around performing was such a big thing, and I just found it way easier to think of it as Citizen K as a character, and you play that character and you play that character well, and you make sure that character is believable, and the only way to make that character believable is for it to come from a real place. Yeah, and I think that's why the performances always feel really great, because I'm giving everything, and I really think about it like an actor.
That's interesting because I feel like not many people have that conscious engagement with their stage persona, and actually one of the real risks I think for artists because of all their open mindedness and everything is that if you get rewarded for something on stage, you let the traits of that bleed into your personal identity and life, and then you know. I mean, you can't just be a performer through your life. It leads to chaos and like, misery for you and everyone around you. I mean, I'm glad that you brought up your brother, Genesis Owusu, because it's kind of like a great, it's like a great test run that you get to do, which is like, okay, here's someone who's similar to me, who I know really well, and he's going to be in these realms doing these things, and I can see what that would mean to be continuing that if you were doing that now, and then to really then have peace for the decision not to be doing it yourself, because where you say he loves the grind, I often feel like, I mean, you have to, because how are you going to outcompete everybody else that's there doing it? So it's so exhausting. It's so much work. Yeah, I think people
Yeah, I
don't.
mean
I
that's
feel like people don't see that, because when you get on stage, you're fresh and fun, and like this is a good
yeah,
time.
and you're doing it. But
Yeah,
that's such a great point, man. Like I did feel guilty about not performing and doing that stuff anymore for a while until Kofi was really doing it. He had a record, Smile with No Teeth, and when he was on tour for that, talking to him and seeing how much work he had to put into that, I have so much respect. But I was like, I don't want to do that. It was totally right, man. There's so much peace that came with going, that's the level it takes, and I'm seeing it firsthand. And am I willing to give that kind of commitment? I don't think I am. I can give that kind of commitment in a different way through producing and engineering and all that and helping make the songs and write it. But it's a different environment. It's a quieter environment. I like the quiet. I like the space. I like being able to step out when I'm ready to step out, like, and outside of it, it's like I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe you can help me out here. But when you're doing a show, and especially when you're performing, there's an energy around that people interact with you differently. Like,
yeah.
it's
I can never talk to people after a show that don't know me personally at all, because they get this like thumbnail of your whole existence, and that's all they're talking to. And especially when shows go well, because they're enamored by that, and like they're responding positively, and it just feels so alienating to me. In fact, I mean, you probably show more of yourself with doing stand-up comedy for like an hour 90-minute show than you do a music show. And I just found it so isolating, because yeah, go around, do a show, and people want to talk to you because they've heard your ideas for an hour and they want to share things, and it's fun. But I just couldn't. I hated it.
it's such a
Yeah,
privilege. Like, it's such a privilege, but it's a lot, and it feels
it's
like you
isolating.
said, like, yeah, it is very isolating. They're talking to a very small part of who you are, and also they're unsure how to really interact with you as well. So a lot of the time, it feels kind of forced. And
I
once
can't
again, like,
imagine what it would be like being actually like Leonardo DiCaprio famous or whatever. Like it would ruin your life. I think you wouldn't
yeah,
be able to meet
I,
anybody.
I reckon it. For me personally, as the kind of person I am, sounds horrible.
Mm,
Like, it sounds horrible. And kind of not knowing who's really got your best interests at heart versus who's there to capitalize on and leverage on what's going on. Like,
mm.
trying to think about that stuff in real time just exhausts me. Like, even thinking about it exhausts me. So seeing, like you said, someone firsthand go through and navigate it in such a graceful way and be both so aware of the reality of the industry, but also so assured in who they are and why they're doing it. I mean, there's a comment Kofi made. I think it's one of his first arias. He was getting interviewed, and they're like, how's your first arias going, right? And Kofi said a thing that I've stolen from him, which is, I'm just enjoying the sitcom of it all.
Yeah, great.
And
Yeah,
like, I've never resonated with something so just I'm just enjoying the sitcom of it all. Like, I'm just here, I'm watching it happen. It's hilarious. And as soon as you can think that way, I think it just it alleviates so much pressure. And I can see that's also how he gets through it as well.
yeah. I mean, it sounds like the perfect detachment to survive it, because it is all. Yeah, it's a maelstrom that's out of your control once it gets. I mean, it's out of your control, as you say, when you walk into the studio with no stakes and you're like, okay, let's do a song. That stuff is out of your control. But then when you add the exponents of everything else, like yeah, it's a dangerous thing to identify with for people. And
And it's easy to
you
think
see the
that
crash.
it's easy to think that the sitcom is reality. Like, it's easy to think that those interactions are how all your interactions in life should be. I have friends who so it's Truman Show stuff. It's like they're so in the scene that they forget they're playing a character, and they forget that everyone else is also playing characters, and it becomes so real that it's hard for them to zoom back out again. And I found myself in that position like heaps of times. It's so easy to just get caught up in, especially when you're in tour mode and you're experiencing that same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
for an amount of time. Like, it's so easy to then, when you get back out of it, be like, what the fuck is this? Like, what's this world?
That leads to two things that I want to talk about. I guess the first one is that it's nice that you get a safe base to return to, at least it seems like, which is you guys, both of you, you seem to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, you seem to be very close to your parents, who you both live near in Tuggeranong, but
Yeah.
they recently have moved back to Ghana. I didn't realize you were actually born there. I found that out from your Wikipedia page. That's how I get to
Oh,
know
yeah,
my
it's
friends,
that
through their
Wikipedia
Wikipedia.
channel, but yeah, that
Yeah,
Wikipedia's come in handy so much. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you left Ghana when you were 6 and they've gone back. But I do remember just before, it must have been 2019 or something like that, you had a project that was funded to go to Ghana and connect with sort of musical roots there with your brother as well, but that got COVIDed, so you didn't get to do it. But can you talk a bit about your relationship to Ghanaian culture? And your parents have just moved back, you just said to me before we started recording. So I'd like to hear about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with that. So, I mean, the only reason I'm here, Kofi's here in Australia, and we're doing music is because my parents. I mean, obviously, other obvious reason, but like you know, we were living a good life back in Ghana. They weren't struggling. They were doing quite well, both of them. And at some point, they decided that they wanted to do something for, me at the time. I think when they made the decision, I would have been probably 5. Kofi would have just been born a year old or something. Because he was 2 or just turned 2 when we moved here. And they just made a decision that, look, I think we want to move somewhere that allows even greater opportunities. Like, we're doing well and we've done well, but I think the next generation could do better. It's one thing to move and to make that decision when things are tough and when you're looking for a better life overall, but when life's good and you still make that decision, it's so selfless. And the biggest part of it was they made that decision knowing that they were always going back to Ghana.
That's
Like, it
so
wasn't like
interesting that they followed through on that as well. Like, what is it, 30
yeah,
years or something? Like, boop, these guys are great.
and however long that takes is however long it takes. It's just nuts. You're a parent, so maybe you can relate to it more, but even trying to think, I'm like, could I really do that? I mean, maybe you could speak to it better. Could I
Honestly,
really do
yeah.
that?
Honestly, you'll be shocked. Like, yeah, my kids are 0 and 2, and already like it's obviously extraordinarily lighter for men than it is for women. But I've found so many sort of biological and brain chemistry changes since having kids, and one of them is I've noticed the thought enter my head a few times that like if a situation emerges where I get to choose, to die for my kids, I'm definitely going to do it, and it's deeply satisfying to have that thought. I almost like it's so funny. I'm like I feel awash with like, oh, that will be really good when I can die for my kids. Like such a stupid thing. But you're like, to me, it sounds like, yeah, if you'd asked me that 2 years ago, I'd have been like, whoa, that's a crazy outlier sacrifice. I can't imagine it. Whereas now I'm like, yes,
Yeah,
good bare minimum. Yeah, good for them.
yeah.
Like, they're,
And I mean,
they're doing what you meant to
yeah.
do. It's astonishing how you
Yeah,
rewire
you
to
are
it.
right. Like, so when I talk to my parents about it, it's so nonchalant for them. Like, they obviously know how much has gone into making it happen. Yeah,
But the
25 years
impressive
in the
part is
making.
also their capability. Like, not everybody has that
Yeah,
determination to follow through. Like, it's one thing to be like, I'll do anything for my kids. And then it's a very rare thing for people to
follow
actually
through.
do it. Yeah, have
Yeah,
the capacity and the
yeah,
self-awareness and everything.
and also to go from like when they first moved here, both having really good jobs, to like having to start from scratch. Like, Dad came a few, maybe I think a month or 2 before we did, for Mum, Kofi, and I, and he went from like whatever his great job was in Ghana to stuck in shelves overnight in Woolies. Like, to go from the seemingly top to the bottom that quickly. And same with Mum. Like, she was a teacher back in Ghana and teacher here as well, but having to get her qualifications back
Mm.
here with like a 1.5, 2-year-old kid. She'd be carrying like Kofi in her back while going to uni. Like, she'd be taking this fucking 2-year-old to uni with her, cleaning toilets and getting whatever jobs they can get just to like survive. I remember we moved here. We moved with my cousins. There's 7 of them in that family, plus 4 of us in a 3-beddy house. It was just wild. And I'm like, even the first apartment we got, I didn't find out till years later. We only got it because Dad kept getting turned down on all the applications, and he pleaded to this landlord and was like, "I just have to get my family in a place. We just need someone to just give us the chance." And so that landlord, she went and looked at where we were living with all my cousins and stuff. She's like, "All of you are living here, sharing," like, and she just couldn't believe it. So she gave us, our parents and us, that chance to move into this place. I think she gave us like Mum and Dad's first car here, gave us all this cutlery and stuff to start with. So the kindness, I mean, this is a side thing as well, but the kindness that was shown to our family, I think, emanates through Kofi and I a lot. Like, we've gotten to where we are because of the people around us, strangers and people we know.
But not just the kindness, though. It's easy to hear that and draw a direct line from the humility, care, and I guess a growth mindset sounds a bit catchy, but like of your parents to undergo that process, with you guys together. Like, what a thing to model, and
Oh,
what
nice.
What a nice set of feathers to have in your bow for navigating something as potentially poisonous as an artistic career or music industry.
Yeah, and for us to be like first generation Australians, having parents who the culture, and I mean, this is all over the world, but especially like, an African family coming and encouraging their kids to go into music after they've just sacrificed everything to get them here.
Yeah, I have a parallel funny one, which is my yeah, because my family came from Europe, not for pull reasons, but for push reasons. You know, the war and your 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 holocausts and your displaced people, etc. And but yeah, I often think how like it's extremely gracious of your parents to move for better opportunities and then end up with musicians and to totally back that and support them as their selfhoods, and then like without that road paved in front of you, you don't get to be the wonderful, successful people that you both are. And again, you're both so young, and there's so much ahead. So who knows what
There's still so much. I
the
mean,
building is going to go.
I always half joke. Like when I found out, it must have been 10 years ago, I found out that Quincy Jones hadn't worked on Thriller till he was 50. And when I found that out, so much pressure went off my shoulders, man. I don't know how to explain. I'm just, still to now, I'm like, I'm just chilling. I'm like, I can't wait to see what we make when I hit 50. Like, I am so excited.
I'm going to write to. I'm going to call you on your 51st birthday and say, like, why haven't you written anything as catchy and successful as Thriller yet? What the hell?
It might come. We don't know. I'm excited.
It's coming this year. What are you talking about? What do you mean,
Yeah,
might?
whatever it is, I'm so keen.
Yeah.
But yeah, mum and dad, so they're back in town now. They've come from, near nothing, like, especially dad. He came from like open sewer villages kind of stuff. And, now they've built themselves a stream home back in Ghana. They just went back last month, finally officially back home after 25 years of putting in all this work and all this time and effort. We've only been back, so obviously born there, came here, only been back once in that time when I was 22, I think.
Yeah, wow. So it's really a foreign
Yeah, super
idea.
foreign. And the culture thing's really interesting. Like growing up here, but still being aware and still having family who are very Ghanaian, but also how we've been raised has been, I mean, I guess it started as raising us in a way that we would fit in here. So, for example, dad talks about like, we weren't speaking the language as much at home. They spoke English with us more, so we would be able to fit in better. And yeah, I don't know, they just raised it in a way that we'd be able to just sit here and fit in and be part of society here and all be good. But because of that, the flip side was maybe not being quite as in touch with our Ghanaian culture. But it's not till both Kofi and I have gotten older that we kind of realize how important that side of it is as well. Especially now, thinking about like, when if I ever have my first kid or have kids, I think that's going to be really important for me to have some sort of idea when they ask, where am I from? What's our background? What's our culture? But I can give them answers that are authentic and real. But having mum and dad back home, I think, is a really huge step in that, because now we have somewhere to really go back to. Although we have heaps of family back in Ghana, we're not connected to them in the same way. And I don't know if that was intentional at all as well with mum and dad. There are a lot of cultural expectations when you move from Ghana to a Western country, and mum and dad didn't want those expectations placed onto Kofi and I as well. There's like expectations that when you come back, you send money back home.
Yeah.
To people that you barely know as well. It's like this weird expectation. And so they've kind of sheltered us from that and allowed us to become these independent humans who can be as involved or as, little involved with Ghana as we want to be. Obviously, we want to be more involved. So having somewhere to go back where we can call home, they built a place that my dad's talking about. We've got our own rooms already ready to go. Like, just really sweet. And I know you said it, but I still find it so hard to just think like, how could you just let everything go when it's all working out and do that kind of thing? But I'm so grateful for them. And also thinking about like talking about how everything's out of your control. We could have ended up in, I think it was Germany, London, or Australia. We have family in all those places.
Wow. Yeah. Very different lives.
Yeah. Completely different lives. And we kind of ended up here just because my auntie here was just like gave more of a hand, like when we were moving. It's just wild to think the butterfly effect of all this stuff of like, if I stayed in Ghana, moved to Germany, London, I don't know. It's just the person I am is the butterfly effect of all this. I think about way too much, like way too often.
My grandparents with my mum first fled to the Netherlands and settled there, and they had a great life, but they just hated the weather. So they're like, we're going to Australia. And then when they got out in Australia, they're like, in the 60s, they're like, there's nothing here. My God, what have we done? Can we go back? And they said, the Dutch embassy was like, yeah, you can come back, but you're going to have to buy your own flight. And they didn't have any money. So they lived in Australia. My grandma still lives in Melbourne. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah,
butterfly effect stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Crazy world. And the other question I wanted to ask from the, what was it flowing on from before of being, something about being able to navigate, the detachment from fame. I wanted to ask, because I already knew, but I reread in preparing for chatting to you that you supported Public Enemy on their tour of Australia. And I feel like they're a great example of artists who, and only from a distance because I've never met them, but I grew up listening to them. It was one of my first CDs I bought. And it's really striking to me seeing them still perform, the difference between Chuck D as a person and Flavor Flav as a person, and like how they, I guess how they seem from the outside to me to have gracefully or otherwise accepted the fame and sort of celebrity and personhood as shaping their identity. What were they like to hang out with and to play with? Did you get much time together?
Heaps. It was one of so Public Enemy, I'm sure you've read somewhere or seen, they are the reason I wanted to perform, or at least a huge part of it. They played in Groove in the Mood. I was there as a punter, lost all my friends, somehow ended up in the mosh of Public Enemy. And I remember like looking up at this stage and watching these guys just give everything.
Yeah,
Like,
such a huge energy. It's funny, me too, actually. I replicated some of their things in Fun Machine, which is such a, like, no one would draw that line. But yeah,
but it
they're
makes sense,
astonishing.
right? If you say that, it makes total sense. And I remember watching them and going, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to do that. And at that point, I hadn't really gotten into music either. Like, I did a bit of music, but I was obsessed with football all the time. So I
Yeah,
was
right.
like, in that moment, I was like, I think this is what I want to do. And so, yeah, the next year, we were one of the supports for Groove in the Mood, one of the early slots, which is wild within a year. And then the year after that, we were the Australian support for Public Enemy. So my first interaction was we walk into this venue for a sound check, tucked in, everyone but Flav was there for sound check. Flav never came to
That
sound
makes
check.
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were running over. And you with nobody. First time, kind of going out of Canberra basically. And we walk in, James and I, who's James Asher, who drums this Escape Project. And we see their sound check and we walk over and Chuck stops the sound check and goes like, stops the sound checks, walks off the stage, comes, introduces himself to us, and then apologizes for running over time.
That is, and for context for people who are not in those environments, you don't get that from like a middle level Australian band,
Anyone.
Like yeah,
Crazy.
Yeah, that's so gracious.
Yeah. It's
and unsurprising. Yeah.
Totally unsurprising. But for us, because I hadn't toured before, that became the foundation of, that's how you act. Like, that's how you do it. That was my introduction into touring and, being a support slot, being a main slot. It didn't hit me till much later. Like, Chuck D to stop his sound check, to come down, introduce himself, and then apologize and ask if it's okay if they just finish up their sound check because they run into our time, is just fucking absurd. Like, it's so absurd. But
it's so absurd that I, from hundreds of gigs, don't think I've ever encountered that behavior once.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Thousands of gigs. Yeah.
Yeah. And to have someone at that level be that aware and that gracious and that, it just set the tone. It set the tone so well. And so the rest of the tour was, was like that. I remember one of the last times we saw them, we were in the airport and they had what's the VIP?
The lounge?
Yeah. We didn't have it because we weren't cool enough yet. And the whole band walked past. They saw us in the airport. They gave us a wave. And they get, 20, 30 meters down the airport. And I see Chuck stop, look back, and then just like came back, sat with us. He's like, you guys come to the lounge? We're like, oh, no, we can't get in. We don't have that access. He's like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just chill here with you guys before till our flight goes. He just like hung out with us, just with the commoners, with
That's so
the
nice.
rest of the peasants until he had to leave. Like, yeah, if that doesn't just tell you the kind of person that he is, and the rest of the band were like that as well. Once again, minus Flav. We didn't see Flav. Like, he rocked before the shows, played, and then he was out. We had like no interaction with him.
That's so interesting because that would have been my. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed that, but I could definitely guess who I feel like is going to be having a nicer time day to day in their life. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And the rest of the band was exactly like that, literally but Flav. And it wasn't even that Flav wasn't, just so I'd be clear, he wasn't like a dick or anything. We didn't have any bad.
That's not an insulting thing. Like that's, I mean, I remember of all things watching the interview with Maroon 5 talking about when they were touring with the Rolling Stones, and somebody said, "Oh, that must be a crazy party for you guys." And it was clear from their answer that they were not even, they just didn't even encounter each other.
Yep. It was just, and that's what it was like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that set the stage for us, like how you behave when you do shows. Like once again, we didn't really ever see that again, but it etched itself in my mind as that's how you interact. You're all there trying to achieve the same thing in the same boat for the same reasons. The tears don't exist. Yeah, man, they were phenomenal. They were phenomenal, and such a beautiful introduction to the world of doing shows and the world of touring.
Well, it's separate again from the sitcom of it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, man. Those shows felt like, okay, yeah, 100%. That's not the sitcom. That's the real thing. Like, that's really how you interact. And there's been a couple of tours, one other tour that was like that. Yeah, it's just when you find those people and you're in those situations where it's not the sitcom, you treasure it even more, and it becomes even more of a privilege and honor to be in that situation. And I think, yeah, I mean, kind of circling back a little bit, for me, the studio can be like that as well. The studio is like that most of the time. The studio doesn't feel like the sitcom to me. Feels like the place you can come and bitch about the sitcom.
It's also very hard for it to be like that because of how you've set it up. You know, it's something that you run. You're in Canberra, which nobody has ever moved to Canberra to be like, I'm going to be the most famous, cool person in music. You know, and ironically, you know, that's why heaps of great stuff. That's why so much great stuff comes from there. I really think, because like, yeah, I remember when I moved to New York 13 years ago, I went and saw heaps of stuff all the time. I was like, oh, heaps of this sucks. There's no boom gate stopping people from coming in. And like so many of the worst people come, as you can imagine what LA might be like for actors or something like that. So many people who are attracted to the sideshow of it all. So then I want to talk, just to wrap it up, because I've taken so much of your time already. I want to hear about the studio. You kind of alluded to it being a place where you've gone through this cycle of it having to become a job, and, you know, you have people come in and then, you know, you spend so much time there, and, you know, you enjoy the solitude of it and enjoy the being able to go away from it as well. Do you have, like, you've set up now with a nice space with, you know, as you said, more gear than you need. I imagine a steady roster of people coming in and wanting to work with you. Yeah, do you have specific dreams for what that's going to be? And I ask because I know that you're the type of person who has visions and ambitions for what you do and work towards those. So if you would share those with us, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, the vision is really how can I be part of this ecosystem that creates good art, that creates good music. And however I can be part of that, I want to be part of that. However I can help in an authentic way, I want to do that. And so the studio has kind of become the stepping stone for that. The conversation that we're having, I feel like music is kind of just the tool to have these conversations for me now. I used to really believe that like music was my thing. I'm here for music and I'm here to create art. I still think that's true, but I think it's more I'm here to learn and connect with people, and the music and the studio is the tool that I have to be able to access that. And so it's like having a space where people can come in almost instantly, forget the sitcom, you know, from the analogy we've been using, and be in a real place where it allows them to make real music. Or like, when I say real music, obviously that's subjective as well. At least be truthful to what they're trying to make. Like, we have the conversation. If we're just trying to make something that's going to go well on TikTok, we have that honest conversation up front, and we're very aware of what it is we're trying to achieve. And that way everyone's on the same page. No one's playing the sitcom. No one's playing the characters. And so the long-term vision is really just, how can we expand on that? I mean, my personal vision is to have a team of people, because I can only do so much as well, and I only have so many skills. There's so much more that's needed that I can't do. And so part of it is really just like, the ultimate dream would be to have a global network of going like, we can say yes to anything and everything music and audio related, and do it in a way that's not the sitcom. Do it in a way that, enhance the world, man. Like, sometimes it can sound a bit cliche or a bit cheesy, but it feels like we just need a bit more positivity, man. And this is the only way that I've found, like, this is the lens that I know how to do it through. And so that means like building up young engineers who want to come through and learn this stuff, producers, artists who've, we've been fortunate to do so like countless fucking songs from YG, which is crazy, which is a whole other fucking thing,
Yeah.
to people coming in making their first song ever, and for them to all have access to the same thing, for there not to be any of that tier system that we learned from the Chuck D experiences. Yeah, just how can we spread that mindset across the board? And the studio for me is a place that we can do that. Hopefully, we can have a multi-space. I mean, you know about this a little bit of trying to achieve the multi-space dream in Canberra, which I have not given up hope on. Yeah, I think that's still the vision, and that's still what I'd like to see. And be in a spot where, I mean, we're kind of doing it now, where I can just take on music and art and people that I genuinely connect with. It's been a while since I've had to take on work because I need the work, which is a privileged space to be in. Yeah, just how can I just keep doing this and being happy and not having to deal with the reality of the fucked up life outside of these walls?
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're doing everything that you've been given as opportunities, tools, and experiences to channel that forward back out lovingly into the world, and it's great. I mean, I could talk to you about this for hours, and hopefully we could have another chat somewhere down the line. But yeah, thanks so much for talking to me today. I love it. I'm going to be thinking about this probably forever, but certainly for weeks. um, Final thing, if you haven't already listened to Citizen K, So Where Are We, go listen to that and all through the other albums and get the full story, the context of what we've been talking about here today. Is there anything that you want to give a shout out to?
No, not particularly. I mean, yeah, So Are We, I think is a good one. That's
It's great. It's great. It's
yeah,
really something special.
yeah. If you
Sit
want to
down,
get like,
like give it the love that it was given in creation. Sit down properly and give yourself a chunk of time and listen
yeah.
through it. It's not yet. It's
And
something
also,
worth it.
only other thing I want to plug is if you listen to this after this, if you can, go out, get some sun, get some grass between your toes, get some fresh air. Yeah, don't forget the crazy wonders outside. We take it for granted too often.
The physical world is indeed amazing, but you have to wait 5 more minutes to go to it because you need to go and sign up to patreon.com/Andrew and join. You can do it for as little as a few bucks a month, and the show doesn't exist without it. So thanks so much to all the Patreons. Thanks so much to Kojo Ansah, aka Citizen K. And yeah, have a great life out there,
Yeah,
everybody.
much love. Thanks,
Much
Chris.
love.